Scooter sharing pioneer Bird filed for bankruptcy last month, putting a grim cap on what was an awful 2023 for the scooter industry. In addition to Bird, many competitors were forced to shut down or seriously scale back operations as the industry reset from the venture capital fire hose and tried to find a new way to operate. So, is the scooter industry dead? Not at all. Long live the scooter sharing industry. Let's talk about why I think it was Bird that was the problem, not the industry as a whole. Struggling companies like Bird had a bad business model, spending vast sums of venture capital trying to gain market share, while their operations racked up loss after ever-increasing loss. This is no way to run a business. In this video, we'll look at how Bird got into this mess. Bird's business model was built on Uber-like hubris and relied on investors being afraid to miss out on the next big thing in tech. They spent over $1 billion in investor money trying to make sky-high promises to cities. But much like Icarus, they flew far too close to the sun and came crashing back down to Earth. Let's break this down further. First off, the hubris. Bird wanted to do everything in-house. This partly grew out of necessity, because in the early days you couldn't just buy an e-scooter off the shelf. This required a massive amount of investor money to do R&D and create a hardware supply chain to keep the company going. Despite that, their initial batch of scooters were so bad they barely lasted a few months in sunny California weather before they ended up in the scrap heap. These initial scooters probably cost the company about $750 each. So if you stretch them out to last an entire year, that means you have to earn $2 a day just to pay for the scooters. Next, they were so sure they would succeed that they started making outlandish promises to cities just to get permits to operate. Some of these promises involved yet to be invented software, like cameras that could detect sidewalk riding and stop the scooter in its tracks. Others involved operations, like promises that a field team would get there within minutes to correct badly parked scooters or else face fines of $50 or more. They also just promised cities straight up cash, like in some places they offered $1 or more for every single ride taken. If you're keeping track, that's already $3 in expenses before the scooter starts moving. But that's barely even the tip of the iceberg for Bird. Until recently, Bird insisted on using scooters with permanently installed batteries, kind of like the one in your iPhone. This meant that when the batteries died, they would have to send out a van to pick up the scooter and bring it back to a warehouse in order to recharge it. It's hard for a scooter to make a company revenue when it's sitting in the back of a van or recharging at a warehouse. And worse, this business model required them to pay even more than their competitors for vans and drivers. The rest of the industry realized very quickly that swappable batteries were the way to go. This meant they could fill a van full of batteries, drive it around, and switch the battery out on the scooter without losing too much time. With swappable batteries, you need fewer scooters to do the same number of rides, which makes your business a lot more profitable. The next challenge is that Bird tried to win market share by absolutely flooding cities with vehicles. The result was that they struggled to get even one ride per scooter per day. If you simply bought a scooter and rode it to and from work every day, that would count as 2 rides, meaning you're twice as efficient as Bird on its best day. I think that curious tech workers were just renting a scooter to ride it to the office in the morning, but then after work they'd go out to a pub or a restaurant, have a few drinks, and decide to take an Uber home, depriving Bird of that revenue for the return trip, and forcing them to send a van to pick up the scooter from the office, bring it to the warehouse, charge it, and drop it off at the house again the next morning to furnish that next ride. Suffice it to say, this is no way to run a business. At its peak, Bird earned about $5 per scooter per day. At the same time, the company says its profit margin per ride was about $1. The company had to stretch that dollar to pay for warehouses, office space, and pricey software engineers in Silicon Valley. There's one thing they didn't pay for, though, and if you dislike Jeff Bezos, then you'll like this story. According to Bird's bankruptcy filings, they owe Amazon Web Services about $5 million for the servers that powered their operations. It's unlikely that Amazon will see even a penny of this money, which means that by the end of the bankruptcy proceedings, Jeff Bezos' fortune will be worth just $165 billion. Bird's hubris, coupled with money from naive investors, allowed it to rack up some serious expenses with no rides to show for them. I can't put all the blame on Bird. The whole industry relied on a venture capital strategy that racked up losses and caused bankruptcy after bankruptcy. In the early days of scooter sharing, cities wanted the operators to pay for all of the costs of regulating this new form of transportation. On that note, let me know in the comments if you want me to do a video about how drivers don't actually pay for our roads today. This demand from cities led to arrangements like Bird's offer for $1 per ride in fees. A recent TechCrunch article quoted an anonymous super pedestrian employee as saying, I think this was really one of the poison dynamics within the industry. We were all so hungry to get that permit. We would say yes to anything, knowing that meeting the conditions of the permit would mean we would not be profitable. The former employee continued, so we were selling this story to investors that we could provide high returns. And then we were also selling the story to cities, and they didn't reconcile often very well. Meanwhile, cities often allowed a free-for-all for scooter deployments. Multiple companies would show up with hundreds of vehicles each to compete for a handful of riders, leading to idle vehicles, high costs, and big losses. Cities have realized that this leads to a boom and bust cycle that benefits no one. We are starting to see cities that view scooter operators as partners that deliver affordable, healthy travel to their residents, and need profits to be able to do this. This leads to more discerning tenders, where cities are looking for sustainable business models rather than outlandish tech promises that can't be met, and high per-ride payments to fund the regulatory system. Cities are also offering up exclusive or near-exclusive rights to operate scooters within their boundaries, preventing that next VC-backed competitor from showing up and destroying your operation overnight. At first, you might think that this would help Bird. For example, fewer competitors gives you the opportunity to fine-tune your scooter deployments to crank more revenue out of each vehicle each day. The problem is that Bird is saddled with these legacy contracts with absurd promises, while at the same time they've burned so many bridges with cities that no one wants to trust them again. This is the point of bankruptcy protection, though. By filing for bankruptcy, Bird gets the chance to renegotiate with its creditors if the court allows. This could allow them to emerge as a stronger, more profitable company if they can renegotiate agreements with cities. I'm not convinced that this gamble will pay off. Cities have other options now. They can bargain with Bird's competitors who won't leave such a bad taste in their mouth. Plus, even before the bankruptcy filings, Bird's contract win rate was bad, really bad. I think that this is really the end of the road for Bird. They have proven that they're no good at operations, they've burned their investors, they've burned the cities, and there are just better competitors out there like Lime who have potential to offer a really transformative transportation experience in our cities. So, there you have it. The VC-backed scooter industry is dead. Version 1 of Bird will not be missed, even if they do deserve credit for starting this industry and making scooter sharing popular. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more videos about scooter sharing. I think that there are lots of examples out there of companies that could be profitable and make a difference for our cities in the long term. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click that thumbs up button and subscribe by hitting the bell in the bottom right corner. Thanks for watching.